breakdown of the Haemosu ship. This one was pretty popular. It's probably one of my favorite ships, not gonna lie. But this one was originally developed as a Nova Corps research ship. This ship does have a lot of space for people. That way it can have long journeys and stuff like that. But it was a too wide ship, a little bit more flat, something that I like. So let me just go ahead and break some of this down. Anyway, so some of the main features of this ship is, what's going on, especially like up here in the front, but then even down here at the bottom. So there are a few mods that are going to be necessary for this particular build. For this particular ship, you are going to need better flips, better snaps. You also are going to need Avon Tech. You will also need, let me make sure there's nothing else on this ship. And that should actually be it. Those are the main bulk of this particular build, along with larger ships that we can actually build past the 40-meter limit. And that should pretty much be it. Just Avon Tech, better flips, better snaps. And yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on here. So one of the features that I like doing, especially with this Hope Tech cap, is extending it so it's more flush with the halves themselves, because typically this is the way that it looks. It kind of just hangs with just a little bit of space because it's supposed to kind of blend a little bit better right there. It just flows down. But I like to have them be flush with the edge of the ship. I think it looks a lot better that way. But the way that this front was built is just by using this particular piece right here, which then connects to this, which snaps to that. But these are also the pieces that are holding everything together. There's a couple of Deimos pieces, and that does help bring this build a little bit together. So let's go ahead and just break off some of these pieces really quick so we can see what's going on. And underneath this particular section is 2 fuel tanks, or actually 3 fuel tanks that are merged together just by alternating the parts and just moving them right next to one another. But removing this piece here, let me just grab all the pieces. I'm just gonna have to get real close here. Come on, just grab it. This is the one thing I don't like about Avon Tech, is they've got really weird snap ranges or whatever. Alright, so move this part off. Now there's not really that much going on with the rest of the ship, honestly. It's pretty easy to follow in terms of like rebuilding it. All this part is just like a bunch of Deimos pieces, as you can see here. Let me just rip them all out really quick. Oops. So all this is just like the Deimos skeg. It just goes from the A down to a couple of these, and there is a doubled up section because this is what this connects to, is on this end, as you can see there. The back piece right here is a Deimos Spine G, just flipped off to the side. You can just simply just press Y or the flip option if you're on PC to go ahead and do that. These two are just 2 skegs that are just merged together. That's all that is. And again, that connects here. So get out of the way. The rest of these pieces are all just simply thrown on the top. There's not much needed to connect this entire section of Hope Tech caps. Those are just literally sitting right above the actual halves themselves. Back here, there is a little bit of somewhat blending. You've got a Deimos bumper and then the Deimos cowling that make up the side, and those pieces are connecting to here. That part is necessary because otherwise this doesn't really connect to the piece very well. I ended up finding out that this was a much better option. I believe because this piece right here, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe it actually snaps properly. Yeah, I didn't want it way back there, and I needed it closer to up here. And this one doesn't actually allow that, as you can see. It'll move it way up there, but I need it more towards the bottom right there. So that's the reason why this piece was included. Because normally it wouldn't need to be needed right here. But as you can see, it's too far. I needed to get closer to the engine, so that's the reason why that piece is there. Let's go ahead and put this back. And putting the pieces back is actually really simple. You could just do that because you're grabbing these two together, and this piece is trying to snap to that little part right there. So really easy to move it that way. This piece will snap there, and then this piece snaps there. So you could just put this part first and then just simply grab the rest of the Deimos bumper and then just stick it in right there, and it'll end up blending pretty well. What's going on down here, this is just connecting to the landing gear, and then this is also on the bottom, which is the exact same thing as what's going up here on the top with the doubled up Deimos pieces. This part is probably the more complex, quote unquote, part of the build. The rest of it's honestly like super easy because this thing does the exact same thing as above, just without some of the extra greebling, but it's the exact same thing mirrored on the top. So whatever's going on down here is going on down there, just far less, with far less length, because this one does go further, but the engineering bay down here at the bottom extends forward. But what's going on here is one of my favorite, like I mentioned, my favorite ways to actually use these Hope Tech pieces. I've found, especially now that we have access to the Nova, where is it? It's a Nova piece. Here it is, the Nova mini brace. I found that it's actually slightly wider than this, just ever so slightly. And this one, using the Avatech Glow Mid, which is this part, just a little middle section. This gives the perfect amount of space in between both of these in order to perfectly hang off the sides, whereas this one does have a little bit of overlap. It doesn't look as good, so that's the reason why I don't use the mini braces. I prefer the glow wing mids. But again, the way that this is attached, let me go ahead and remove this. So this particular hab is hanging out right here. This Deimos wing is connecting to just that little piece right there. These are all connecting to the hab that's underneath it. Not really necessary to put it there. And then this part is a Deimos skeg which moves forward. Deimos skeg moves into this piece, and that's what keeps everything at that perfect distance, because the rest of these Hope Tech pieces with better snaps all snap together, so you can literally just make it go the rest of the way backwards. So it's not actually flush with the hab itself, it's slightly extended outward, which again is how I use these pieces to be more flush with the ends of the habs, rather than just right here where it slopes down and it has like a much simpler merge. As you can see here, it just flows right down. So again, let me move these pieces out of the way. These pieces right here, these Deimos pieces, are going to be snapping onto this right here. You're going to get two of these, and it goes, right there. This end that you see right there is going to be snapping. Second, there you go. Too far. This end right here, at the very bottom, is going to be snapping to the middle of that point. You then just simply flip it over to this side and then move it over there. Now, the way that the game works again is that by snapping together points that are connecting, in which case, or for example, what's going on is that this snap point that you see in the very center of the Avatech is connecting to this point. So when we put that there, that's the way it works. However, by also sharing a snap point with these other two Deimos pieces, it's almost as if they're all part of the same piece. So that's how those merging, that's how we end up merging a lot of pieces for anyone who's not as familiar with, like, I guess, a lot more merging techniques, you might be a little bit more new. Other builders, more advanced builders, might be very familiar with this, so that's how that part ends up going in there. And then if you're also having trouble, like I mentioned in the Halo Frigate build, obviously it won't snap, it'll just try to go off to the nearest other section, which we don't want. Just get it as close as you can, like right there, select all, and then when you grab onto this entire piece, it'll just snap properly. So that's a really quick way to get parts to start snapping together. And then, of course, these parts are connecting to the ends right here, like this. And they're snapping onto the ends right there. I'm just going to bring it all the way forward. So let's go ahead and just move this really quick back. Go right there. And these the Hope Tech parts are just going all the way backwards. So let's go ahead and just copy this over. Same for this side. It's going to be connecting to this center piece. Grab these. Put that right there. Move this up. Put that right there. And these are just two Deimos Wing A pieces. This whole section is going to end up moving over here. And again, they're all technically sharing a point. These Deimos Wings are connecting to these Deimos Wings here, and then these Skegs are all connecting to the Glow Wing mid. And the moment that they're all connected at that one central piece in the middle is tricking the game into thinking that it's all part of one piece. Same for right here, as you can see, it's not actually snapping, it's just going somewhere else. Get it as close as you can, select all. Just gonna grab that piece real quick too. Select all, and then just grab it. You can just shift it into place. Real easy. Honestly, that's like the only hardest part about the rest of the build. The rest of it's honestly very self-explanatory. It's just all built by snapping onto the pieces properly. The Hope Tech caps are snapping directly onto the halves here. And then these, of course, all end up going here. Go ahead and leave that right there. And I actually moved this too far. Let's move this back. There we go. This piece is going to go right here, and it's just mainly for aesthetic. It is connecting to the end of this grav drive here. You could have a much better grav drive than 22 jump range. It's not very good. I mainly picked this grav drive for the aesthetic. I like the way it looked as opposed to the other grav drives. But if you have something like Darkstar, honestly, Darkstar is just a really good mod for having some increased stuff without becoming like too overpowered. For example, the grav drives, let me see if I actually still have it installed. Okay, so not for this save. Oh wait, no, I do. It's weird, the Darkstar grav drives are usually at the very beginning. Oh, well, regardless, yeah, you would just end up using Darkstar parts. As you can see here, there are Darkstar pieces that I do have. Their reactors and their grav drives are just significantly better. You can get a reactor with like 60 power, so you can have full 12 pips in pretty much all fields. The grav drives can get up to like 62 grav jump distance, and it'll actually let you jump significantly further than like any other grav drive in the game. Like even if you were to swap out that grav drive for the strongest grav drive that Vanilla has, which is going to be the I believe it's the J52 at 50 grav jump thrust. Even with 50, if you were to delete this, the game will automatically. Oh, it actually lets it bump up to 37. Okay, so Darkstar's allowing that. Never mind. I was gonna say, because even with typically with vanilla values, even with a 50 grav jump distance, it still will only let you jump a maximum of 30. But that's the reason why I like Darkstar, is that it lets you jump a little bit further. The rest of the pieces, again, are very self-explanatory. But let me go ahead and show you the setup of the halves, because the halves has a lot of room for you to play around with, in my opinion. There's plenty of available space for you to make use of, and that's one of my favorite things about this build. It's actually going to be my go-to build for the DLC, most likely, because I just love this ship. And if it's not going to be this one, it's probably going to be like one of the other newer ships that I've been making, like the Jengsong, for example. That's probably one of my favorite ships right now, out of all the ships that I've currently made so far. Alright, so the actual ship itself is, let me go ahead and just grab all the pieces really quick. So I can also move the... Give me 1 second here. Oh yeah, the engines are also doubled up. This isn't actually one set of Hercules engines, it's actually 2 sets of Hercules. Oh, actually it's only 3. Oh, well, would you look at that? Yeah, because typically for a lot of the builds that I make, I don't like 100 mobility on every single ship, because, I mean, a ship like this, in my opinion, shouldn't be turning fast like a, like a starfighter. Ships like this should be a lot slower. They should feel heavy. They should feel kind of cumbersome. It doesn't look aerodynamic because it's not supposed to be, It's not like a starfighter that can turn on a whim. So I try to make ships feel a little bit more in tune with what their specs are in overall. So just keep that in mind when you're building these ships. You don't have to use the engines. You can use much stronger engines. You can swap them out for C-class engines, which in my opinion is the better option, or the better way to go. It's just to swap it all out for C-class parts. I think it's just significantly better that way. Sorry, let me just grab this and put it all in. There you go. Okay, so the setup for the halves is this. So you go from this landing bay directly into the storeroom. The storeroom goes directly up into this engineering bay. The engineering bay does have access to a few things. Just behind this entrance up into the engineering bay, you can actually get up into the living quarters. The living quarters has access to the one of the little corners. I'll go ahead and give like an actual tour so you can see how it looks. But this is the way that I have the door set up. You go from the engineering bay over here into the computer core. Again, you could swap out all these parts for much better habs. I just like using habs that feel a little bit more lore friendly, or I guess like grounded, because since this is a research ship, it's probably going to have a lot of internal parts that are, computer cores, engineering bay, stuff like that. It's going to have a lot of advanced systems, if we do a little bit of headcanon. Just in front of the computer core is going to be the cargo hall, where you'll have access to go down this engineering bay into a separate storeroom, which then connects to this docker. It is a front access ship, so you can go ahead and just store the, get all your items, put some into the storeroom, maybe something in the engineering bay, and then lastly into the cargo hall. By the cargo hall is actually how you get down into here, which is another engineering bay A and a computer core. You enter through this little hole right here to get down into the computer core. The computer core has access to the engineering bay. And again, you could swap out all these habs for significantly better habs that are more useful. You don't have to use any of these. I just like using the ones that feel very lore friendly and lore accurate. But anyway, you come up here into living quarters, which has access to the infirmary, an all-in-one berth for everyone to sleep in, and then a science lab for sciencing. And that's pretty much the Haemosu. So let me just go ahead and show you all a quick tour of this ship. It's honestly really easy to build. If you do want me to break it down a little bit more, I certainly can, but a lot of it's pretty much face value. Once you get better snaps and better flips, honestly, it's just too much fun. You get so much access to so many parts and moving stuff around, especially now that Rux is the person who actually made these mods, and they've done an excellent job. And they've done this addition called Junk in Your Trunk, which I think is extremely useful. So normally, when it comes to like grav drives, reactors, and stuff like that, this is the only configuration that's going to come in. You can't do anything else other than just grab it and put it into place. But with the new update for better flips, you can do so much more. You can flip it around to be more upright. You can move around the configuration of the thing itself. They have decorative grav drives, so you can do like a doubled up deal, you know, make it look really cool and use custom parts. If you're gonna get into modding and shipbuilding in general, honestly, better snaps and better flips unlocks so much potential. That's pretty much the only two mods you're ever gonna need, and that automatically unlocks so many possibilities for shipbuilding in general. But let me go ahead and just give a quick tour of the Haemosu really quick. So this is a side bay entrance, and it is a little bit far, so that is one of the downsides to the ships. I tend to like my bays up in the front just because, you know, it's a little bit easier to navigate, especially in worlds. When you're landing in places like New Atlantis, it's kind of a bit of a hassle to have to walk all the way to the back over here just to get to the entrance of the ship, you know. But you come in through the front, come into the landing bay, and this is where you're automatically in the very first section. It's just a little storage room. You come up into the engineering bay, so you know you have all this. This is going to take you up into the living quarters and access to the cockpit. We'll go do that later. But here's your little engineering bay. You know, I've kind of figured this is a big old ship. It's expensive since it's part of the Nova Corps research division, and I like stuff like this, even though it's like useless. I like these apps. You then move over here into the computer core. I love the computer core. A lot of cool techie stuff. You got all sorts of servers, all these little things here, doohickeys. Makes you feel real smart, researchy, you know. You come over here into the cargo hall. Of course, you're going to go on long journeys or long flights. You're going to need to have plenty of room for cargo. Then you just walk down this long corridor, which is Engineering Bay B from Deimos, and then the storeroom. Just store some extra stuff, or maybe something you're trying to unload, and then it'll have access to the front docker right there. Now, the access to the bottom floor, which is the third floor, is right over here. And again, this just takes you down into a computer core, as you can see here. Very nice, very sciencey, very techy. Cool. Move over here into the engineering bay. Just another engineering bay, you know, stuff affecting the functions of the ship. I don't know. Come up here. Let's go to the living quarters now. So heading all the way back over here, this is something I did want, that is a design, purposeful design, I guess. As soon as you walk in, I want there to be immediate access into the living quarters and everything else. Back there is just all going to be more maintenance stuff, so not really important. Come up here. Well, it is important, but you know what I mean. Gameplay-wise. You come up here, and this room, I figure, is the best for a ladder, because I don't want any other part of this place being used. Because right here, it's going to be awkward, because then there's just like this bench with a big old hole right there. I always think that looks weird, and I prefer putting a ladder here in this little corner. This feels a little bit more normal, it makes more sense. Over here into the living quarters. Wow, very nice, very nice. In this little area is access to the infirmary, you know, in case you get injured on those long journeys. If you have useful infirmaries, that's probably going to be even better. Come over here into the all-in-one living space. This is for the crew to go ahead and sleep, take some shifts, whatever. And up here is the science lab, so you can science it up. It does have a pharmaceutical lab, so pretty useful. Come this way, and then you have access to the cockpit. This one is definitely one of my favorite ships. It is a much smaller ship, but you could turn this into a very nice replacement for your Frontier, in my opinion. Replace it with much better parts. It's a pretty fun ship, and it has pretty decent stats overall, even vanilla-wise. Especially if you use more cheaty engines. Honestly, I love my engines, but it's a little annoying having to like waste 12 pips into just that. So you could end up, the reason why I like using it is that it allows you much more diversity when it comes to reactors, because if you're like me, I get bored of the same using the same parts. I don't want to keep using the 104 DS engine, you know, the Class B. I think it's 39 pips of power total. It's like the second best next to the Pinch 8Z reactors, the C-class ones. But it does unlock a little bit more diversity, so you can use a little bit, you have more diverse access to reactors. You're not just using the exact same ones. Reducing the power to the engines, honestly, is just a great way to make things a little bit more fun. But of course, I don't build my ships to be or overtly powerful. I like making them just like strong enough, but not like crazy strong. I don't like them to be overbearing because, again, I like the ships to feel a little normal. You know, this kind of ship wouldn't be having like like 12 particle weapons and just absolutely annihilating everything. I want it to feel powerful because it needs to protect itself, but I don't want it to be like a warship. This isn't a warship. This is a research ship. That's just my design philosophy when it comes to building my ships for the company. But again, I'm using this honestly kind of bad reactor, the ion beam reactor. I like it because it works really well with Deimos parts. It flows just like them. It's square and angular just like them. It's one of my favorite reactors for that aesthetically, but it's really bad. 31 power doesn't really get you much out here, so not the best. Not the best. But again, look, it fits in there so perfectly. It blends in with the Deimos parts pretty well. That's the reason why I like them so much. And this ship is very heavy Deimos and Hopesec, probably like my two favorite manufacturers next to Nova Galactic. And yeah, so that's the ship. Again, if you want me to explain it into a much further detail or break it down piece by piece and like just rebuild it, I definitely can. But a lot of the ship is pretty self-explanatory. Oh, and I guess this part does need to be explained right here. So let me go ahead and remove these parts. So these three helium, the HE3 tanks, are all just connecting to this part right here. And this is just so I can connect to this part, because otherwise it does look a little bit silly without it, because there's no other way to add the base there. And I thought it made it look a little sturdy, so that's the reason why I kept it there. It just looks a little bit nicer. But this ship I did design to be as not as complex as some of the other builds that I've made. So that way it's a little bit easier to follow, because I want my ships to be kind of complex, but not overbearingly complex. And yeah, that's pretty much the entire build. It's really simple ship. It does have 3,860 cargo. You could definitely max it out. You can get much stronger engines. Probably swap it out for a C-class engine or a C-class reactor. Maybe move up these HABs a little bit more up, and then just replace them with better ones. Like, you don't really need a living quarters or this all-in-one berth. You could probably just get rid of this, move it all up, and then probably just move the all-in-one berth up here, because you don't really need like too many parts. The infirmary, at the end of the day, the only reason why you would need it is just so you can have access to the pharmaceutical station. But again, that, like, unless you have the useful infirmaries mods, infirmaries aren't really that useful. You could just get a science lab, and I think science labs are actually better because they tend to have a research station and the pharmaceutical labs, if I'm not mistaken. Infirmaries don't always have them, so that is another option. So you could just simply, you know, delete this infirmary, delete that science lab, and then move these parts up, and then you'll have a little bit more room to play with back here. Maybe just put like a single companionway there, so you could still have access to the third floor up here. And then back here you could probably just throw in one of those C-class reactors, so you can have access to those really good engines, the Poseidon engines, the ones that are worth like 4 power. Where are they? These right here. You could just use these, and these honestly give you significantly more power just 2 of these gives you 81 mobility compared to 3 Hercules engines, which only gives you like 40. Wait, is that 83? 66. Well, that's still significantly better than 43, and that's just with 2. And then if you're using more cheaty engines, it's even easier because you just have access to 2 pips of power and you're getting just as much mobility, which is better. And that's pretty much it. That's the Haemosu. The Avon Tech part, you use the Avon dish top. Just simply place it on top of the Hope Tech overseer bridge, and that'll snap right there. There is the Horizon weapon mount, which connects there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I did add some shielded cargo in case, you know, you're going to be going around collecting contraband. You could just swap it out for more cargo so you can have an even higher cargo load. You could swap out all of these for much higher cargo loads. I like to mix them up because I like the different colors. I usually think it looks a lot nicer, especially for these types of ships, rather than just a very single piece. Some cargoes are actually really good too. I believe it's actually, yeah, Tiger Shipyards. You could probably end up looking into them as well because they offer 3,000 cargo for 1 piece, whereas this one only offers 400. And the mass is about almost 3 times as much, but you are getting way more cargo per piece. And then you could always just double up these engines, just use twice as much, and you could probably get your cargo up to like 10k, probably even higher than that. But I wanted it to feel kind of normal. This is just a research ship. It's not like a huge deep space ship like some of my other ones, so that's why I felt like 4,000 cargo feels generally okay for this type of build. But yeah, those are the stats. The shield is at 1125 with much better perks. You're going to be getting roughly about 1800 shield. The crew will be up to 6 for this particular ship here. You could get it much higher by, again, swapping out the engine, the reactor to be a C class, and then giving it more weapons. Weapons are what essentially allows you more access to more people. You could also even swap out the computer core for, say, a control station. And once you start adding more weapons, it should start giving you more crew. For example, let me see if I can get this to work. Yeah, see? By just giving this 3 more pieces, you're already getting 7 crew, which is good. And this one only has 1, so, you know, this could be significantly stronger, because this is just 2 of these little Riza pulse lasers, 2 of these Tsukisasu missile launchers, and then just 1 single KE-49 cannon. So it's not like crazy damage, but it's enough, especially in a lot of the... If you're going to be playing something like extreme difficulties, yeah, you're probably going to want to beef this up, because this is not going to last, especially against Varun ships. And that's it. That's the Haemosu.